I'm back. It has been 3 days since I last done a video on YouTube. And if you guys have watched my last video, you will exactly know why I did not do any video over this weekend and I did not do any previews and reviews of the World Cup. And that, of course, is because I was down in LA. And in fact, I literally just came back from LA after a 10-hour train journey back here a couple of minutes ago. And even though it is 12:20 in the evening and I have to go to school tomorrow at 10 in the morning, which means I have to wake up at 9 in the morning, I want to show my kind of desire and certainly my passion in terms of doing this, because this is a really big week in the World Cup. I mean, this is a week that for a lot of those teams that is either lingering in the second spot or just looking outside in to qualifying into the knockout stage. This is the make or break week for them, because this is the final week of the group stage. Well, not the final week, but the final day of the group stage game. And I just cannot afford to skip the preview and basically start to do it tomorrow. I have to do it today. So without further ado, let's talk about the group stage, and we're going to start with Group A and Group B, because those are the two games that is going to be play. And also from now until Thursday, I believe, there's going to be 4 games, and that each day there's going to be 2 teams from, or not 2 teams, but there's going to be 2 groups, and there's going to be 4 games and 8 teams that is going to be battling each other out, and there will be simultaneously game between teams in each game, and the other team that is playing the simultaneous game is going to be part of that group. So, for example, Spain and Morocco and Portugal versus Iran is going to be kicking off at the same time and will finish at the same time because they're in the same group as each other. And also, one more thing before I begin. From now on, I am not going to be wearing any jerseys that involve with teams in this preview. So, as you can see, I'm wearing an Argentina jersey today. And Argentina, of course, is not playing today, so that's why I am wearing their jersey. And the main reason why I decided to do this is because for those of you that still think that me wearing a jersey in the preview and me wearing your favorite team jersey when they're playing in my preview video, and it is a way, when I do that, it is kind of a way to say that you completely jinx the team and you make them think that they're going to win and it turns out they lose. I don't know. It's such a weird kind of thing, but I have seen other people talk about it. I have seen YouTube comment talk about how the person or the YouTuber wear this specific jersey and they're doing like a preview, and it turns out later on their team lost, and then they blame on the YouTuber because they basically wear their favorite team jersey and they jinx the team. I mean, it's kind of weird, but I'm doing it just in case if there is going to be people that watch this video and they're going to comment it and said that you have jinxed my team because I wear your team's jersey when they are part of my preview video. But either way, let's actually get into the action, and we are going to be starting with the first 2 game of this final group stage game, and we're going to start with Group A with Russia versus Uruguay and Saudi Arabia versus Egypt. And I also forgot to mention, I am not going to do a full in-depth kind of preview about these games for these next couple of days, and instead I am actually going to just do these kind of looking at these 2 games and looking at, for those teams that is kind of like looking in the outside in or they're just hanging on for dear life to try to make it into the group stage, and what kind of scenario that is going to do. I'm not going to do like what I have been doing with the preview, where I have gone in depth into each of the game, because that would just take way too long if I would have included the scenario into it. So that's going to be something that I will be kind of doing for the next 4 days when these group stage final game of the group stage will happen. But we saw, of course, with Group A, and unfortunately, Group A has already been kind of decided. This is one of the few group in the World Cup that has been decided who's going to move on and who's going to be going home. We already know that Egypt and Saudi Arabia is going home because they have put up a goose egg right now as they head into the final game of the World Cup group stage, and they just have no chance of making up 6 points with 1 game to go. So with that being said, Russia and Uruguay is going to be moving on. Russia is actually currently first in the standing, despite the fact that both teams are tied on points, because Russia has that gigantic goal differential in favor of them. And when I mean gigantic, I mean they actually now have the biggest goal differential out of any other team in the tournament right now. And let me just say that I can already hear the haters, and they already said that Russia has just clearly cheated in this tournament, which I honestly don't know why people are saying Russia are cheating in this tournament. I mean, I have watched every single game that Russia has been playing in this World Cup, and there's not one moment I have seen them score these 8 goals. Not one of those 8 goals I can say that, maybe that shouldn't have been a goal. Maybe it was like an offside that the referee kind of missed it. There hasn't been really a biased decision by the referee against or in favor of Russia so far in this World Cup, and it goes the same with the 8 goals that they have scored. They look like very legit kind of goal, and look like a goal that is just completely legal and free of controversy. So I don't know why people are still saying that they are cheating and they are just kind of like rigging the games, unless the only reason I can think of them potentially cheating is that if they are going to be found out in the end of the tournament that they have used doping on the players right now, which I believe I just recently heard the news that the US, of all people, obviously, decided to do an investigation on the Russian player and actually decided to tell them to do a doping test to make sure that they did not caught cheating again like they did in the Summer and Winter Olympics a couple of years ago. And, if it found that they have been using that doping thing, then yes, I will kind of accept the fact that Russia kind of cheated a little bit. But if they didn't, then I just have no evidence. There's just no real evidence you can back up that is the reason why they actually cheated in, and why they basically kind of like rigged themselves in as pretty much right now the best team in the tournament with the highest amount of goal that they have scored and one of the least amount of goal that they have conceded, and the gigantic +7 goal differential. But, coming into this game against Uruguay, certainly for Russia, this is probably the first big test for them. And I really think this is probably a game where this will be a good opportunity for the Russian to really kind of test themselves and see how good exactly they are, and really just kind of like prep for what happened when they go into the round of 16. Now, what's very interesting about this group is that it just kind of feels like none of these teams really want to either finish first or second, because if you finish first, most likely you're probably going to get Portugal in Group B, but if you finish second, most likely you're going to get Spain in that round of 16. So there's really like a no-win situation for both of these teams. So it's going to be interesting to see how exactly they probably approach this. I think Uruguay is probably going to go defensive again, because that's been sort of the thing that they've been doing the whole tournament. I mean, the first 2 games they've been going very defensively. They haven't done much going forward on the attack, which is kind of surprising considering you have Luis Suarez and Edison Cavani, two of the best attacker in the world, and so far they are just, I mean, people say that they have been kind of invincible for most of the game, but they're just not getting enough service whatsoever. And that probably maybe is the big problem that Uruguay is dealing with right now, and that is the midfield is just not good enough for them, and that they just have no creativity whatsoever in the midfield. But the good news is they do have a rock solid defense, with the fact that they are one of the two teams that's still yet to concede in the World Cup. The other, of course, being Croatia. But I just feel like it's getting to a point where for Uruguay, if they want to win this game against Russia and trying to go deep into the tournament, they got to start getting Edison Cavani and Luis Suarez going in terms of the goal scoring department, because right now with just 2 goals in this tournament, and the fact that somehow they're sit in this tournament with 6 points, it's quite remarkable how they've been doing it. Although, to be fair, they've been playing 2 of the worst team in the World Cup. They play an Egypt team that did not have Salah, and they play a Saudi Arabia team that got blown out in the opening game by Russia. So, yeah, if they kind of struggle to face against those teams, I wonder how they're going to do when they face some real team. And, Russia is definitely going to be a real team. I really think that this Russian team, of what they have done in the first 2 games, surely they can't just go into the 3rd game and just get completely obliterated by Uruguay, because I don't believe this is a fluke by Russia. I believe that they are actually playing for real, and that they are looking like a team that can definitely challenge to not only get into the round of 16, which now they have, but probably they can even make it to the round of 8 and cause a big upset in the round of 16. But, this is a game that certainly is just depend on who exactly they're going to play in Group B. And again, like I said, there is really no win situation for both of these teams, of whoever win in this and whoever finish first or second, because most likely they're going to play the 2 big European giants. Now, speaking of Group B, let's actually talk about Group B, because Group B is certainly much tighter than what Group A is. In fact, Group B in some way is very similar to Group H, where there is 3 teams that is looking to try to secure 2 spots, and they're only separated by 1 point. And I think it's also, these 3 teams also have the same amount of points as the team that in Group H had, with the top team having 4 points and the second place team having also 4 points, and the team that is looking outside in with 3 points. But certainly, when you look at this situation, Spain, I think, has a upper hand in this situation, because they're playing against Morocco in this game, and Morocco is already eliminated in this tournament. And actually, I forgot to put an E right next to Morocco's name, just like I did with Egypt and Saudi Arabia, where they are eliminated. So I expect Spain to able to get all 3 points against Morocco, although Morocco definitely, even though they are eliminated, they're going to try to play spoiler and trying to end the tournament for them on a high. But I really think the game that could potentially determine who exactly is the 2 teams that's going to move on, and who is that second place team to move on into the next round, is going to be this one between Portugal versus Iran. Because this game, certainly, both of these teams are only separated by 1 point. And for Portugal, I think it's pretty simple for them. If they win this game, then they are going through to the next round. Now, if they drew this game, I think they'll also go through the next round. Actually, they are guaranteed to go through the next round. And for Iran, if they drew this game, they better hope that Spain somehow, in some way, will first of all lose to Morocco, but also they need to hope that Spain lose to Morocco by maybe kind of one or two kind of goals, so that Spain will have a lower goal differential than Iran is. Because if Iran and Spain actually tie on goal differential, and let's say Spain of course lost that one, that means that Spain will be moving on into the next round, because in terms of the head-to-head, Spain of course beat Iran in that match, and they of course will have that advantage. And the other thing for Iran is that they cannot lose this match. If they lose this match, then they are eliminated in this tournament. So this is either going to be they need either a draw, but most likely they definitely need a must-win. And in many ways, you could say that both of these teams are kind of like in a must-win situation. Well, I think for Portugal, it's kind of like a must-win and also a draw, because if Portugal lose this game, then they are actually going to be out of the tournament. Well, actually, I wouldn't say they're going to be out. Depend on if Spain lose their game. And like I said a couple of seconds ago about how Spain and Iran, and how if they get tied on points, and it depends on if Spain lose to Morocco and how many goals they lose and the goal differential. It's the same case with Portugal. If they lose this game, they better hope that Spain lose their game and also have a worse goal differential than Portugal. But I have a feeling that for Portugal, they probably need to at least get a draw and at least get a win. And what's interesting about this game is that it's between two teams that always tends to be very defensive. Portugal is a team that likes to sit back and try to hit team on the counter, while Iran, they are pretty much as defensive of a organized team as it gets. I mean, this team, they just, every single game, they just basically send almost 10 men behind the box and trying to see if their opponent can break them down. And we have already seen that Morocco and Spain had an incredible tough time to try to break down that Iranian defense, which has been just kind of like a stone wall for most part of this World Cup. But I think for Iran, certainly, I don't think they're going to try to do that. They're definitely going to have to go for it in this game. And that maybe is one of the big problem I have with Iran, because this is a team that is definitely not built to try to go on the attack and definitely try to have majority of the possession and trying to break down team, since they don't really have a lot of good attacking threat. And it's not exactly what their manager want them to do, and the tactics that he always tends to use is more of a defensive one, not an attacking kind of thing. So the fact that Iran is going to have to do the opposite of what they usually do, that is going to be very interesting, and that is definitely probably not going to work out very well for Iran. Although, to be fair, in that game between Spain and Iran, and right near the end of that game, you saw how Iran finally decided to go forward and try to attack and not just put 11 men behind the box and hopefully they don't concede. If they can do that against Portugal, then I think they definitely have a chance to maybe get one or two go off of Portugal. And Portugal is definitely going to try to defend as much as possible, trying to maybe get a draw or even get all 3 points on the counterattack and give the ball to CR7 for him to do the magic. But for Iran, it is going to be a top task for them to try to get something out of this game and get all 3 points, because I think at the end of the day, for Iran, they probably need all 3 points in this game. And if they get all 3 points, then they knock Portugal in that third spot. And depending what Spain does with Morocco, let's say if Spain, of course, won, that means Portugal will be out of this tournament. And as much as we talk about how Portugal and how in the first couple of games they have looked pretty decent, yeah, that means that if they even have one lapse of concentration in this game and have one bad game, then they're out of the World Cup. And those first 2 games that they have played pretty decently would not matter whatsoever. That is how close the marginal error is in the World Cup group stage game. I mean, a lot of people talk about the World Cup group stage game for those teams that are favorites of moving on. They think that it's just a piece of cake and just a cakewalk through the group stage. But it really isn't, because, you know, the margin of error is definitely very, very tiny, because you only get 3 games. And if you drop points and if you lose to one of the team doing the group stage game, you could be in serious trouble. So it's going to be interesting to see how this group is going to play out. Certainly, I hope that maybe Iran can pull an upset, because in some way I don't want this to be just so obvious. And I kind of want to... I feel bad for these 2 teams that is currently in Group A, the fact that they have to play a strong team like that. Although some will argue that they kind of deserve to have to play a strong team, because consider how easy that their group is and how they kind of got through the group with ease, that their kind of reward for getting such an easy group is that they need to have a hard group. It's only kind of justified and only kind of even out of the way how they need to at least have some sort of challenge to get to the next stage of the World Cup. But yeah, it's going to be very interesting. Let me know in the comments below, what do you think is going to happen in all 4 of the game, and also let me know in the prediction below of all the score, and who do you think is going to be moving on in Group B, and who exactly is going to finish top in Group A. Is it going to be Russia, or is it going to be Uruguay? But until then, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash that subscribe button, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.